that the surgery went well. I looked at his face when he walked into the recovery room. He had a heart and was a good guy. She was in The Sound of Music and saved a child who was drowning on camera. Never heard of how Robert Urich and Heather Menzies' love story ended, even though it was one of the best in Hollywood. It was cancer that tore their lives apart, then 2 tragedies in a row, and then their death exactly 15 years later. Right on time, to the minute. These weren't just random events. Robert and Heather went through something almost too evil to believe. They said that with 15 shows, Robert Urich had the most TV roles of any film star in history. Just that would make him famous. His story wasn't just about how much he had, though. It was about how he kept shocking people by going from being an action star to a dramatic lead to a Broadway singer to a well-known documentary host. A lot of players are squished. Robert broke all the rules. He began as an Ohioan football player. She only had ability, charm, and one very important friend, Burt Reynolds. Burt always had faith in him and helped him make his first big shot. In 1975, that shot came with SW8. Robert played Jim Street, a tough but likable police officer. The show ended quickly. It wasn't shown in 1976 because it was too violent, but it showed his face in a lot of houses. He was no longer just a guy with promise. He was going to be famous one day. Then Vega showed up. Robert played Dantana, a cool Las Vegas private detective. From 1978 to 1981, it wasn't just a hit. It was a big event in history. He solved crimes with a smirk and a suit as he drove a red 1957 Ford Thunderbird through the lighted streets. By the way, that car took the place of a yellow Corvette that caught fire in the pilot. Like Robert, that red t-shirt became famous. 2 Golden Globes were given to him for the part. What's more, it made him a sign of how smart, slick, and smooth he was. He was the face of primetime action for a while. Urich didn't stop there, though. He ruled TV for the next 30 years in a way that few others have ever done. 15 lead parts in all kinds of genres. He played a dumb tennis pro in a soap opera which was funny. He dealt with spying in Gavilan. In the mid-1990s, he even led a Western called The Lazarus Man. He was in almost every movie and TV show from 1973 to 2001. Also, he wasn't just going easy. He switched gears and tried new things all the time. He wasn't happy with being a one-note star. He had a lot of plans. Then Spencer came to be hired. There was more to this show than just detectives. From 1985 to 1988, it ran, and the state of Massachusetts got about $50 million from it. So much was spent to film in real places in Boston, which gave the show a grungy, real feel. Robert made it work even though the winters were harsh and money was tight. There was a lot of spark between him and Avery Brooks, who played the tough and mysterious Hawk. It wasn't a show about guns and car chases. Fans loved it because it was about character following the rules and doing the right thing even when it hurt. He later came back as Spencer in 4 made-for-TV movies, which showed that the role and Robert were popular. People thought they knew him well, but then he did something they didn't expect. It was him on the cover of National Geographic Explorer. He was the host of the show from 1988 to 1995, when it moved between TBS, CNBC, and MSNBC. His voice became known as the Sound of Wonder, and he talked about secrets in the deep sea and ancient civilizations. He really meant it, not just reading from a script. In 1993, he won a Cable Ace Award for voicing Ubit's terror on our shores. In 1992, he won an Emmy for the same thing. He was also the host of On Assignment, which earned him another Cable Award. These jobs weren't just for fun. Robert showed that he could do a lot of different things on these important, well-known shows. He would have become a hero even if he had stopped there. Still, there was one more act. Robert made his Broadway appearance in 2000, while he was still fighting synovial cell carcinoma, a rare and aggressive cancer he had been fighting since 1996. The role of Billy Flynn was his in Chicago from January 5th to February 13th. He had played the part before on tour in Detroit and Washington, D.C., but this was the big show. He did a great job at the Schubert Theater. People were shocked not only by his performance but also by the fact that he could sing her. There was also something else. His wife said that he had a twinkle in his eye when he walked out on stage. He lit up the room, even though he was tired and going through chemo. Heather Menzies was born in Toronto on December 3, 1949. Her parents were Scottish and had left Britain after World War II. Her dad was an artist who was having a hard time and wanted to start over. But what they found in Canada was hard work. They were poor, had nowhere to live, and were holding on to hope. Heather learned something from her hard life as an immigrant that Hollywood couldn't teach her: grit. Heather had lived in 4 places in 2 countries by the time she was 14. They were in Vancouver, Miami, London, and Southern California. Every time her dad's art business failed, the family moved somewhere else. Heather had to quickly pick up new languages and learn how to get along with other kids at school. Even though it was hard, the volatility made her flexible. Being able to change herself quickly was something that would help her in the future. Then, Heather went to a casting call when she was 14 years old and had never been acting before. It would impact her life. A lot of girls tried out for The Sound of Music. Most had resumes, managers, and training that had taken years to get. Heather only had 1 missed TV show on her record. She did have something else, though. She was real. Her charm really stood out. She was cast right away as Louisa Von Trapp. There was more to the shoot than just singing in the Alps. The movie almost turned into a disaster during one scary scene. The rowboat flipped over during the scene. Kim Carth, who played Little Gretel and is 5 years old, couldn't swim. She went down twice. Records were being made. It was a bad fall for Julie Andrews. Some people on the crew froze, but Heather didn't. She swam right up to Kim, picked her up, and saved her life. Kim drank so much water that she got sick and has been afraid of water ever since. The scene stayed in the movie, though, so what you see is real. Heather saving her co-star. The Sound of Music was a huge hit when it came out in theaters on March 2, 1965. It won 5 Oscars and, by 1966, was the most successful movie of all time. It sold 283 million tickets and made $286 million around the world. It was number 1 at the box office in 29 countries. And all of a sudden, Heather Menzies, who had been the quiet girl from an immigrant family, was famous everywhere. She was only 15 years old. Heather didn't want to be stuck in time as sweet little Louisa, though. In 1973, she did something very bad. For Playboy, she stood naked for a spread called Tender Trap. The name was a joke about her time on The Sound of Music, but the meaning was clear. She was no longer a child. People were shocked. She had played a good girl in a family movie just 8 years before. She was taking charge of her image now, even if it made people who still saw her as Louisa mad. In the same year, she was in one of the wackiest scary movies of the decade. She played Christina, the crazy scientist's daughter who turned people into snakes. It was weird, didn't cost much, and had real snakes in it. Heather didn't move, though. Some people said she was cute and sweet. That was her goal, to stand out, not fade away, even in that weird part. She got a big TV part in Logan's Run in 1977, where she played Jessica 6 in a sci-fi world where people were hunted at 30. The show only had 14 episodes, but Heather stood out because of her revealing outfit and daring personality. Executives at CBS got scared at one point and said she looked too racy for a kids' show. Her dress had to be changed so that she wore tights and pink underwear. Heather didn't give up, though. She was now this person. In 1978, she made the best move of her career so far by appearing in Pian, a cult horror hit produced by Roger Corman. The movie made $16 million, but it cost just over $700,000. Steven Spielberg even said nice things about it, and Universal dropped their case without a fuss. Heather played Maggie McCann, a brave skip tracker who set the story in motion. Along with a group of horror movie veterans, she held her own, and her performance helped make Piranha a classic. In an ad for canned hash, Robert Urich and Heather Menzies met while acting like they were married. Doesn't it sound silly? But that scene on the set in 1974 changed their lives for good. It had been 2 years since Heather Menzies' marriage ended, and she was 25 years old and trying to move on with her life. Robert Urich was 28 years old, in great shape and really hot in Hollywood. They were acting like a married couple for an Easy Libby's ad. It all made sense. It was more than just playing. Felt like a real bond. that it felt so real that it didn't stop when the cameras stopped rolling. It didn't take long for that day's act of being in love to go deeper. It wasn't just a job. They fell in love and stayed together for 27 years. It wasn't like Robert was a struggling performer either. His big break was almost here. The next year, in 1975, SW8 made him a popular name when it aired on TV all over the United States. Fans loved him as Officer Jim Street, the tough guy with a heart. But it wasn't a mistake. Robert had worked hard to change how people saw him. He went from 180 pounds to 220 pounds of solid strength just to look like an action hero. He looked good, had charm, and had good friends. Burt Reynolds, one of them, even helped him get his big break. Reynolds talked director Aaron Spelling into giving Robert a chance. After one tryout, Spelling was bought. Robert Urich was on his way right away. At the same time, Heather was going through her own changing point. She was really well known at one point. She played Louisa Von Trapp in The Sound of Music, one of the most famous movies of all time, when she was only 15 years old. But being a kid star doesn't last forever. It was hard for her to make the change from kid star to serious actress by the time she met Robert. She was also getting over a marriage that ended after 4 years when she was only 20. And Robert, he had also been married before to Barbara Rucker, his college love. He was wary after that marriage ended peacefully. That's why he married Heather just over a year after meeting her, which seemed so sudden and maybe even risky. On November 21, 1975, they got married.